I guess before I start, it'll be good to sort of explain what we're doing with Mars. We're sort of building a solution with Mars Food for their business. It's an ongoing solution, so we're still running it. And essentially it is to embed the growth engine, as we call it, within their entire business. The data we're collecting and analysing is being used to make sort of critical business decisions around how to drive growth for their brands and products. So a little bit about me. You may be wondering what Head of Client Success means. Essentially, my role is to oversee the delivery of all of our client projects and solutions. So I run the research and strategy teams at Streetbees, who work closely with clients on a day-to-day basis to design our solutions, embed them within the clients' businesses, and produce strategic output to help answer their business questions. So what did Mars actually want to achieve? So what they were looking to understand is the dinner landscape and how this is evolving. If you can imagine, there is a preconception among a lot of companies that the dinner time is still a family sat around the table eating together. Now, that is still the case in a lot of homes, but with our sort of ever-increasing busy lives, fragmented eating patterns, and sort of busy and unpredictable schedules, we see that there are a lot of fragmented eating patterns, and that is not something that Mars was currently capturing. So they wanted to understand through data captured in consumers' own words, with images, to really understand how their products and brands, but not just their products and brands, competitor products and brands, were manifesting in everyday dinner moments in consumers' lives. How are they using this? To really discover opportunities for innovation and sort of defining consumer comms. So when we talk about growth, this is not always just about creating a new product, creating a new brand. It's also understanding how to actually communicate to your consumers, target your consumers with the right messages in the right moments. So what is the problem with their existing data? So at Streetbees, we own all of our data, meaning we have built an incredibly large database of over 2 billion data points. This allows us to run our own analyses, and as part of this, what we have discovered is 75% of our everyday choices are driven by our immediate context and state of mind. And this is why traditional research tools can miss out on true drivers. If you think about it, if I ask you, well, I will ask you, how many of you remember what you had for dinner 2 days ago? Show of hands. Okay, that's fair enough. How many of you remember how you were feeling in that exact moment? Yep. And how many of you remember what was going on around you? Okay, so people remember potentially what they've eaten, but not many people remember how they actually felt and what was going on around them. Considering this is critical to the choices we make, it can only really be captured in the moment. And this is what our solution is all about. We capture those moments, those dinner moments, those lunch moments, those breakfast moments, but not just eating and drinking, any time you eat, any type of moment, actually as it is happening. And we get the IRBs, our community, which I'll come on to log those moments, and tell us not just what they're having or what they're doing, but exactly how they're feeling at that time. And that helps us understand, when it comes to behaviors, when it comes to choices, what is really driving them. So what we have tried to help Mars do is sort of move away from some of their existing data, which they were finding difficult to use, and it wasn't producing that sort of growth, it wasn't growth strategy that they were looking for, to a new way of doing things. So we moved from sort of reported behavior based on recalling claims towards real behavior, which I've mentioned is captured in the moment. We also move from sort of pre-framed questions and answers, which can impose biases and miss detail, towards bottom-up understanding in consumers' own words. So if you think about it, if I gave you a list of how are you feeling with some predetermined emotions that I've decided should fit, versus you telling me in your own words. If I give you a list, you'll pick from it. You won't type in your own response. Whereas if I let you type it in yourself, you will tell me in detail how you're feeling and often why. We don't restrict people's sort of what they're writing. We let them sort of go with it. And what that allows us to see is people like to share. People do like to share with us. They like to tell us how they're feeling. They like to tell us what they're doing. They like to tell us why they've actually chosen to eat this food over something else they could have had. And if we gave them predetermined lists, then we would miss so much of that detail. And that is why we use what we call, and what was sort of mentioned at the start, unstructured data in all of our analysis. Mars was also looking for depth and the ability to inspire. What we deliver to them through this sort of unstructured data, through the photos as well that we collect, is rich consumer verbatim. And that sort of allows us to uncover hidden themes and critical nuance. So again, going back to my example of giving you lists, like what does easy mean to one person versus what does it mean to another person? We can get to that level because we can see how consumers are talking about it in their own words. So it's fine to say this was quick, this was convenient, this was easy. What does convenience mean? Actually, it means a number of different things to different people. For someone, it means literally, what can I grab that's there? For someone else, it means, what do I have in the fridge, which doesn't require too much effort? For someone else, it means, I'm going to order a takeaway. So there's a lot of different sort of nuances there that we can also miss out if we don't hear it from the consumers themselves. So how are we helping? We are, as we say, consumer-centric. We do put the human at the heart of everything, in that we talk to real people in their everyday lives in that moment. Our approach is what we call always on. What that means is continuous data collection. So for this sort of program that we're building with Mars, our data collection does not stop. Every day there is data coming in from consumers logging their dinner moments. And it's conversational in the sense that, as I've already mentioned, we do not pose pre-framed questions and answers. We sort of have it as a chat in an interface that looks a little bit like WhatsApp, which I'll show you. So far, actually this data is a little bit old because when we were building the presentation, but we've been collecting data in UK, US, and Australia. And at that point, we had sort of 3,000 sort of consumers, who we call our bees, capturing over 9,000 real-life dinner moments. We update this data for Mars on a monthly basis, meaning that actually now it's even up. It's more like 12K sort of dinner moments that we've captured. The image you see is our dashboard. It's a proprietary tool where all of our unstructured data is stored, but it's not just unstructured anymore. We use our machine learning algorithms to quantify and classify that data so that actually Mars has access to the quantified data, but also all of the photos and the rich verbatim behind it. So our approach in a nutshell, we're sort of doing qualitative insights or bringing qualitative insights at quant scale. So while we still collect all of that open text and that conversation from consumers, we do it at massive scale to ensure it is actually quantifiable. So our tool is our app. So you can download it and you can take part. You essentially have stories in your feed, and as you go in, you'll be able to take those and you get incentivized for taking part. We have communities all over the world. We don't call them panels, we call them communities because we recruit on demand. So all our bees are obviously registered and then verified users, and then they start logging as soon as they join. And all of our data, as I already mentioned, is stored in our machine learning enabled dashboards. So we use our algorithms to classify and structure that unstructured data. Here is sort of a snapshot of what a conversation could look like. In fact, this is a real conversation from the study. So you see the app, and then it's in the app, this is how the questions actually pop up. So like a sort of WhatsApp interface, you'll see the question pop up, the user can answer and submit it, and then the next question pops up. I'll let you have a quick read of the answers. So, how does the actual analysis part work? So in a nutshell, we have, as I mentioned, proprietary machine learning algorithms that essentially look for patterns in behavior and experiences and group them into clusters, and these clusters become consumer-led occasions. So when we're talking about dinner moments, this is where it all started. In the step-by-step process, we collect the unstructured data in the form of open text, photos, and even videos. We then use NLP, natural language processing, to then classify and categorize that data. We then run our algorithms to detect the commonalities and patterns. And what that shows us is that some features or some questions or some variables have greater differentiating power in driving these commonalities. And then the rest of our data is used to profile these moments or occasions to build a holistic understanding of what is actually going on in that occasion. What you see here on the sort of right is the weekend from prep. This is an actual occasion that emerged. You can see the key characteristics of it. It's a weekend. People tend to be with their family. They're in a very positive mood. They're sort of mainly cooking from scratch. They're sort of spending a fair amount of time cooking. And actually, they've prepared it with their family. So we're sort of detecting new occasions. And whereas you may have captured a weekend occasion through traditional research, I don't know, it's the granularity and nuances within that occasion that are sometimes missed. So we may not know that people are spending or cooking with their family and friends. I mean, we may not know how they're feeling at that time. It's an upbeat moment, and it's something they may be looking forward to. And then what we help Mars with is sort of getting to the detail. So this is just a snapshot of an occasion profile. This is all the data behind it. So they can understand what are the sort of top drivers of that defines this occasion. What does it mean? A one-line description to help sort of bring it to life, as well as the photos and quotes. I should have mentioned at the start, actually, all the photos and quotes you see are from our bees, from this study. You see that we go through the key factors defining the occasion. So, why they chose this, who they're with, the prep time, the time of day, the mood. And this helps bring that holistic view of what is going on in the occasion, providing Mars with essential features or characteristics to help them decide how to best action against it. So moving on to the impact. So I mentioned at the start, that we collect actual behaviors and not rely only on reported behaviors. So I wanted to sort of give you an example of why that's important. And I'm going to show you something where we've asked people in our we always ask a background profiling study, which is not necessarily in the moment, just to understand a little bit about the people and their attitudes and their lifestyle and their preferences. We then also get the same people who've done that study to go ahead and log. That allows us to see what they sort of reported or self-reported or claimed versus what's actually happening. So what you see is where you see the claimed behavior, this is what they've reported to us in the background study. We asked people, thinking about the meals that you've eaten after 5 p.m. in the last week, how would you describe their preparation? And you see that, 87% claim to have eaten a home-cooked dinner, prepared themselves in the last week. When we actually captured the behavior in the moment, you see that 2 and 5 are actually resorting to practical solutions. So we not only rely on habit, we also rely on aspirations. If you ask me, what's important to you when you're deciding on your food choices? I would say health. You know, we all want to be healthy. Whereas if you captured me yesterday, while I was working on this presentation, I was having a pizza because I didn't have time to cook. So it's just that it's not just people forgetting, it's just that people also rely on their aspirations. So this is a example of why we sort of look at what people tell us they aspire to, because it's still important, because it helps bring out the tensions. Aspirations and claims versus actuality helps us see what are the tensions people are facing. This let us know that people are aspiring to cook more from home, or want to, or try to, but that is not always the case because of the fact that they have busy lives, they have children, they have work pressures, and that means they make choices that are often different to what they intended to. Here's another one. So we asked sort of in the background around what's sort of important when it comes to food, when you're making your food choices. We had a statement that was, I value taste above all other factors, with an agreement scale. So, and in this sort of almost 3 and 4 sort of claim to value taste above all other factors, which makes sense, it's food, right? But when it actually comes in the moment, you see that speed and ease become sort of top drivers when people are deciding what to have over all of the other options that are available to them. Taste is still there, but it's further down the list. And we see this a lot, and it's not just in these markets. We do a lot of work in food and beverage, understanding people's drivers' behaviors across the world, and we all consistently see that this element of speed and ease is a need, which is often combined with not wanting to compromise on taste or not wanting to compromise on health. And again, this helps us understand the tension and how can Mars solve for that tension. So moving on to how we actually use the occasions themselves, this is the weekend fun prep that we talked about. You see the tensions. So these are weekend meals, but they're more than just feeding. They're bringing the family together. Health and ease are actually both valued, but that means that given that it's such an big occasion with the family, the meals cannot always meet those needs. Most meals are cooked from scratch. We did see people spending a lot of time cooking them, but we did also see people turning to pre-prepared options or part-prepared options to sort of help, again, with that pressure of ease and time. So what were the opportunities? So again, as we mentioned, it's not just innovation here, it's also communication. How can Mars speak to these people in this moment? So they looked at, can we position something around couples cooking together? Could we sort of have a communication around sharing the preparation, easy solutions for every level? And then something else as well, making cooking fun and a novelty experience for everyone, bringing the family together, getting your kids involved. How can they help with that? And then we also surface sort of completely new territories and then sort of help them understand how to activate against them. So the weekend fun prep, you may think, okay, I can see that occasion coming up. My late and light meal, I'm sure everyone here, or most of you here, have had that occasion, either after a late night in the office or late night out, and you've come back and you need something quick and light. Now, we don't always capture this naturally, because people are not going to say, I ate at 1 a.m. If you ask them, what did you do last week? I ate at 1 a.m. on Friday night, and I had a quick snack because I felt like I needed to eat something. So this is why this is what we capture in the moment. Consumers are tired for whatever reason and lacking the energy to cook. They're using ingredients that they already have at home or food that they've already prepared at home, including leftovers, and that's what they're turning to. Sometimes they are actually seeking healthy choices, but are compromising for convenience. So this presented actually quite a lot of opportunities for Mars, because a lot of their solutions, even though they are geared towards this, are not positioned in this way. So if you think about your dolmio sauces and sort of instant pasta, like it's perfect, but it's never sort of positioned in this moment. So here we're sort of focusing on easy meals for one. Again, another important factor. Does Mars provide enough single-serve solutions? But not just one for one, with a healthy twist. Lighter options as well. You don't want something heavy at 1 a.m. or midnight, so whenever you're coming home, for those eating later in the evening. Think about what you already have in your store cupboard. Like, what are those essentials? How can they help people make the most out of them if they are going to try to cook or prepare something? Sort of a communication around prep to plate, in less than 15 minutes. How can Mars help people achieve that? And then sort of thinking about easy end to a long day. I've had a horrible day at work, want to come home, want something simple, messaging around that, positioning their products in that way to tap into consumers' emotions and needs in that moment. And so how are Mars actually taking this forward? So this is from Dawn, actually, because we're still continuing. As I mentioned, it's an ongoing sort of piece of work, and so we're continuing the study as we go on. But one thing, the things that Dawn has mentioned so far is that it's really helping their briefs. They're sort of getting better innovation and communication briefs that inspire their teams and can be brought to life. So the photos and verbatim here are critical to bringing all of this to life. It's really helping them with cross-functional usage. So the sort of ability to provide that all their teams and brands, cross-functions, alignment, to work together on what they want to solve as a business going forward. Data dissemination. The dashboard allows their teams to work with the data. They don't always have to come to us if they want to run something. They can go into the dashboards themselves. They have the same level of access as we do. And this is hugely powerful and important within the business. But it's not just within the business, it's also for their retailers. They've taken this to their retailers and shown them what can be done. And they're getting the sense that the retailers are getting really excited about the prospects of this. And also some really surprising benefits, sort of not necessarily around the data, but in terms of actually how their teams feel. Like the team seeing this data, seeing that their brands can still be relevant is really sort of helping them feel more confident in what they're doing and sort of helping them see that they can still bring real value to consumers.